The damage wasn't just in the side effects, it's in the years stolen from your life. Newly uncovered data from a Japanese government database is pointing to something chilling. Each dose of the mRNA COVID vaccine may be silently erasing decades of human life expectancy. So why haven't you heard anything about it? Because in the US and Europe, the media is burying the story. Big Pharma owns the narrative, and the silence is deafening. But in Japan, it's a different story. Citizens are rising up. Scientists are speaking out. Lawsuits are moving forward. And unlike their Western counterparts, Japanese doctors aren't shackled by the corporate influence. They're blowing the whistle loudly. According to Japan, we're not looking at a public health mistake. We're staring down a global holocaust. What exactly does the data say? And how long can this truth be suppressed? You're about to find out. Before we dive in, if you're interested in sponsoring this show, please email sponsor@thepeoplesvoice.tv. Our videos attract millions of engaged viewers on X and Rumble. If you're interested in getting your product or service in front of all these people, please email us at sponsor@thepeoplesvoice.tv. On June the 15th, a group of courageous Japanese truth seekers from inside the system did what their government had refused to do. They went public with explosive vaccine data covering over 18 million people. This wasn't some anonymous leak. The broadcast featured Kazuhiro Haraguchi, a sitting member of Japan's House of Representatives, Dr. Yasufumi Murakami, a leading RNA scientist, and the Information Disclosure Request Team, a group demanding transparency from the Japanese Health Ministry. And make no mistake, Dr. Murakami is no fringe figure. He's a professor at the Tokyo University of Science and vice director at its Research Center for RNA Science. He earned his doctorate in pharmaceutical science from the University of Tokyo and has authorized over 100 peer-reviewed publications. This is a man from inside the system now speaking out. When Dr. Murakami analyzed the data, he was shocked and outraged. His conclusion was straight to the point. The more doses you get, the sooner you're going to die within a shorter period.
そして3月29日、その呼びかけがあり、本日6月15日、なんと1800万人の接種回数人数分のデータが蓄積されております。
接種者がオレンジで、接種者と非接種者を正確に比べようということをしてみますと、非接種者はね、山ができないっていうのは、これ当たり前なんですよね。打っても別になくなるわけじゃない、打っていませんので、何の問題もなく、フラットになるわけです。問題は接種者の方なんですけれども、緑のグラフ。それが初め低いんですが、1週間、2週間は少ないんです、むしろ。で、1月ぐらいから山がですね、大きくなってきまして、3ヶ月、4ヶ月目にすごい山ができるということになるわけです。それでですね、これっていうのはどういうことかっていうと、おそらく、打ったお医者さんたちは、打った当日、翌日、1週間ぐらいに関して言うと、おそらくワクチンの影響だろうということで、副作用が発生した、副反応が発生して、多分亡くなったということになりまして、PMDA にですね、送るわけですよ、その情報。ところが、1月、2月です。もう一つ。それからもう一つ、分かったことなんですけども、接種をですね、打てば打つほど山が前の方、左の方に、移動しているという現象も分かりまして、接種回数が増えていくと、死亡者の山の出現が早くなります。ということは、打てば打つほど死にやすくなると。より短い期間で亡くなる人が増えてくるということでありまして、それでまずですね、山ができる、でワクチン接種に毒性だとか死亡を誘導する効果がなければ、山にまずならないわけですよ。これがまず一つの発見で、打つ回数が増えれば増えるほど移動していくというふうなことは、打ったですね、毒性が重複どんどんしていって、回数が増えれば増えるほど早くなくなっていくというふうなことだと思います。
According to Dr. Murakami, the government data reveals there has been no spike in deaths among the unvaccinated. But among the vaccinated, a rolling series of peaks emerged, the first occurring between 90 and 120 days after the shot. A significant peak forms at 3 or 4 months, he said, pointing to the vaccine as the obvious cause. It's probably due to the vaccine's influence, with adverse reactions occurring leading to death. Then came a graph that was impossible to ignore. It showed a disturbing trend. The more vaccine doses a person received, the sooner they died after their final shot. The title translates to number of days from final vaccination to death and number of deaths. A note on the right reads, as the number of vaccine doses increases, the peak in deaths appears sooner. Each line represents people grouped by the last dose they received before death. So those in the third dose curve got 3 shots and died before a 4th. The most striking was the steep green spike for third dose deaths. It was not only the highest, but also peaked earlier, just 90 to 120 days after injection. Across all groups, the pattern was the same. More mRNA doses, faster death. As Dr. Murakami explained, we found that as the number of doses increases, the peak of deaths appears faster, meaning the more doses you get, the sooner you're likely to die within a shorter period. So the risk increases with more doses. If the vaccine had no toxicity or didn't induce death, there wouldn't be a peak. That's the point. This is a key discovery, he continued, drawing on data from the Japanese government database. The more doses, the more the peak shifts, indicating that the toxicity accumulates. The toxicity overlaps, and the more doses you receive, the faster people die. While the data is shocking, it won't surprise anybody who's been paying attention. At this point, there's no justification for these shots to still be on the market. As we reported back in 2024, COVID mRNA vaccines are now officially the deadliest medical product in history by a wide margin. And yet, speaking that truth is still taboo. Meanwhile, the CDC continues to recommend boosters for the majority of the population. It's not just reckless, it's criminal, genocidal. Now, for a little historical perspective. In 1976, the US government pulled the swine flu vaccine after just 25 deaths, and about 550 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, and that was with a quarter of the American population vaccinated. In total, 53 deaths were linked to the program. The result? The government shut it down as a matter of urgency, issued public apologies, and paid out compensation to families of victims. As Dr. Peter McCullough says, it's unacceptable to have anyone take an injection electively and die. It's absolutely unacceptable. It's not something our country has ever thought is okay to do.
So the first point I want to make is there's a historical precedent in the United States on mass vaccination. And there's been several of them, but one to recall is the swine flu pandemic, 1976. Many of you were alive. 1976, I was 14 years old. This was going on. Gerald Ford was the president. We had 220 million Americans. We had gotten to about a quarter of Americans vaccinated against the swine flu, and had 25 deaths and 550 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a form of ascending paralysis. The program was shut down. There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no VAERS or vaccine adverse event reporting system. Just good old common sense concluded that we can't give injections and have people die after an elective injection. It's unacceptable in American society. Now the deaths ultimately rose to 53 deaths, and apologies were given, there were reparations, there were payments, but the point is it's unacceptable to have anyone take an injection electively and die. It's absolutely unacceptable. It's not something that our country has ever thought is okay to do.
Today, the mRNA death toll is in the millions, possibly far higher, and all we get is gaslighting and the threat of a slew of new mRNA injectables coming down the pipeline.
And I think that is not just about COVID, it's about the fact that we are going to have a whole slew of new vaccines, injectables, that are going to deal with some of the worst diseases in the world, that give us the opportunity to make big changes in the health of the world.
The truth is, the elite aren't just invested in these shots, they're desperate to force them on every man, woman and child. There's open talk of using the military to enforce future rollouts. And that's exactly why the media has been ordered to stay silent. Because if the public knew what these vaccines are really doing, the entire agenda would collapse. But the cracks are showing, and what's leaking out is explosive. If the elites aren't careful, they won't be forcing vaccines, they'll be fighting to stay out of prison. We've got the evidence they don't want you to see, and it changes everything. That's coming up right after this important word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is pillsforever.com. If you think Big Pharma have your best interests at heart, think again. Under Biden, the price of medicine in America has skyrocketed, and there are certain medicines Big Pharma don't want you to know about. That's why I've partnered with pillsforever.com. All of their FDA-approved medicines are the cheapest you'll find anywhere. More importantly, you can order medicines that Big Pharma don't want you to have, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and fenbendazole. Speaking of fenbendazole, not only does it get rid of parasites that live inside your body, there have been studies that show fenbendazole can help with cancer. Listen to this testimony of Joe Tippins, a cancer survivor, thanks to fenbendazole.
2 years ago, Joe Tippins says he was told to go home, call hospice, and say his goodbyes. The doctors were unanimous. He was going to die of small cell lung cancer.
Once that kind of cancer goes that far afield, the odds of survival are less than 1%, and the median life expectancy is 3 months.
Tippins says he got a tip, not from a pharmacist, but a veterinarian. And in his desperation, he turned from people medicine to dog medicine. Specifically, fenbendazole.
My insurance company spent $1.2 million on me with traditional means before I switched to a $5 a week medicine that actually saved me.
Get 15% off using coupon code People's Voice at the checkout. Please click the link below this video to take advantage of this fantastic offer.